Now, our next speaker is working on connections of a different variety, not just human to human. As we work through this and kind of think this thought out, I want to give you guys a question here to kind of pause it. Because today we've been thinking about partners in allied nations, wingmen in and out of the lab, collaborators. But what if you had the chance to talk to somebody different? What if you had the likes to talk to Marie Curie, Einstein, Isaac Newton, someone from the past to help inform a problem in the present? Dr. Alaniz is exploring this very idea through our lens of general intelligence and trying to show through the right connections, well, a lot more can be possible. Without further ado, let's let the man himself explain it. Please welcome to the stage Dr. Alaniz as he goes through his talk, Helen, Keller, ChatGPT, and Einstein.
Imagine a child going blind and deaf at 19 months old. Imagine this child not getting professional help for 5 years. This was the story of Helen Keller. Yet she managed to master 5 languages. She published a dozen books and became a renowned speaker. Her teacher and companion for the next 50 years, Miss Annie Sullivan, arrived in 1887. 5 years after Helen had gone blind and deaf. Within a month, running cool water on one of Helen's hands, Annie made signing symbols on Helen's other hand, which Helen suddenly realized represented a code for water. This was the moment Helen Keller joined our world. Hello, I'm Dr. Alex Alaniz. I've served in the Air Force, worked in industry, academia, and government. I'm a principal physicist at AFRL. Thanks to AFRL, I get to work with Space Force, Army, Navy, Marines, our allies, industry and academia, each, like my wife's career, dedicated to protecting our democracies. I also happen to be a former Los Alamos nuclear weapons physicist. So I appreciate the challenges nation-states face in acquiring the know-how of nuclear explosives. Today's experts in artificial general intelligence, or AGI, tell us AGI will take its place besides nuclear and biological weapons as another source of existential risk. Unlike nuclear weapons, powerful AGI technologies are at the fingertips of 8-year-olds, criminal enterprises, dictatorships. In order to understand the promises and threats of AGI, we need a theory of general intelligence. An approach to such a theory hit me one day in my garage lab when I was thinking about Helen Keller. This inspiration led me to, I'm not kidding you, to building an avatar of Albert Einstein. You can talk to Einstein. You can ask about favorite foods, World War II and atom bombs, or the theory of general relativity. I'm going to walk you through a 30-plus-year thought experiment that'll probably last the rest of my life. It'll go from Helen Keller to Einstein Avatar to a framework for measuring general intelligence that may be useful to produce general intelligence. In order to understand how Helen Keller could have built the complex richness of the world inside her mind using only a sense of touch, I imagine someone using pegboards to record her association of water to related concepts, to drinking water, to boiling water to cook vegetables, to boiling water to wash whites. On an adjacent pegboard dedicated to beverages, coffee, tea, and so on, there'd be lots of links going back and forth. We'd soon need to move to a tall tower with balconies on each floor to put more pegboards on to continue our connection process. We'd bring over the pegboards from the previous slide on all things water at home and put them on the 15th floor. The 14th floor we dedicate to weather and water, rain, snow, thunderstorms, and hurricane. The 16th floor we dedicate to bodies of water, lakes, rivers, swimming pools, and oceans. We'd soon need to move into a taller tower. The 30th floor we dedicate to world history. And we'd send a link from hurricane on the 14th floor to the sinking of many of the ships of the Spanish Armada coming to conquer Queen Elizabeth's England. Decades later, as a renowned speaker, we'd be in the tallest tower, its spiderweb framework capturing a representation of Helen Keller's understanding of the world at the apex of her life. It's what we do. We build complex spiderweb representations of our existence. Well, in order to test the utility of this idea, I turned to Albert Einstein. I translated the idea of pegboards with pictures with sentences to text files with sentences with probabilities. There's a floor on special relativity with sentences on special relativity. There's a floor on general relativity with sentences on general relativity. There's a floor on wives, friends, children, and so on, and I stopped at 101 floors. The 101 floor Einstein avatar tower looks like this. These are 101 text files or floors in 3D. The 4th floor contains a text file with sentences on music. The 15th floor contains a text file with sentences on cosmology. If we go to the 4th floor, we'd find sentences on Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms, and classical music that Einstein had thoughts on. Those strings in Einstein avatar represent probabilities, linking sentences within a floor and between floors or files. I assign these probabilities based on Einstein's history or my understanding of his physics. Some of those strings are thick, corresponding to high probabilities. Some are thin, corresponding to low probabilities. To add life to this construct, I added 101 chatbots. Customer service chatbots often give us frustratingly wrong answers. Einstein avatar is not dumb. If you ask it, did Mozart help your creativity when you were developing relativity? Einstein avatar will find the floor on music and the best sentence.
Listening to Mozart allowed me to relax and focus. Mozart boosted my creativity when I created both theories of relativity.
Some possible follow-on replies from the same floor. Wagner was more popular than Mozart during the Hitler years. Or from the floor on Friends, Michel Bessa was my best friend and created a sounding board during my youth. The relation between these sentences being either Mozart or creativity. If you didn't know this, ChatGPT can take on the persona of famous people, Einstein being one of them. Well, since the sentences in Einstein text files don't change, I had ChatGPT rephrase the Einstein avatar sentences using Einstein's persona. For fun, I found a bot that speaks with Einstein's voice.
While I formulated the theories of relativity, indulging in Mozart's compositions amplified my creative faculties.
We're still on the same sentence. Listening to Mozart boosted my creativity. It's just been rephrased by ChatGPT in Einstein's voice. However, ChatGPT alone hallucinates. It drifts off. It invents false facts. Einstein avatar can't because its links are based on facts. So what do we have so far? We have a spiderweb framework for general intelligence of interest to the ModSim community. We go through life connecting bits of information. In kindergarten, our view of the world is very simple, and we make the connection that fish live in oceans, a little bit later that oceans form part of a planet, and somewhat later that fish evolved from simpler life. And after a whole lot of learning, we come to appreciate the challenges of commercial fishing versus climate change. Eventually, our realities get very rich, and there's a lot of math to measure and exploit these graph networks. ChatGPT 3.5, think about this, couldn't draw a square when I asked it to relate Queen Elizabeth, England, and hurricane. Eventually, ChatGPT 4 connected the dots into a square. Oh, a hurricane did a lot of damage to the ships of the Spanish Armada coming to conquer Queen Elizabeth's England. We shouldn't be afraid of AGI until it can create spiderweb frameworks as rich or richer than ourselves. While spiderweb framework technology can power avatars, it's agency or self-determination that's the real goal of AGI research. I'm working on it. For data, I'm using a trilogy that I wrote that spans from 1926 to a landing on Mars in 2050 and beyond. Main characters will begin with empty spiderweb frameworks. As my algorithms read the books, the spiderweb frameworks will get richer with every turn of the page. Halfway through the trilogy, maybe I'll give the characters motivation and choice, and I'll get as many trilogies as computationally possible. Maybe I'll plug the characters into the internet and see what happens. How smart might they get about our world? Next, I'll give the main character, loosely based on Lisa Meitner, the woman who first figured out that uranium fission bombs were possible, step-by-step notes on physics that I wrote from 1834 when quantum mechanics was discovered, not understood at that time, to today's theories of modern physics to see what happens. I expect limited results because some types of intelligence probably aren't fully amenable to spiderweb framework methods alone. Say intuition. You can try this. Like do-it-yourself biology kits, you can find this stuff online. Why? 30 plus years into my thought experiment on general intelligence, why? Because, as Aaron Sorkin wrote, because it's next. Because we came out of the cave and we looked over the hill and we saw fire, and we crossed the ocean and we pioneered the west and we took to the sky. The history of human exploration is hung on a timeline of exploration. And this is what's next. Let's roll AFRL. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow. Once again, an incredible talk there. And what's amazing about the ideas posited here is just think about the possibilities. Really think about it. If we could talk to anybody in the past to inform us now in the present. I mean, I mentioned this is going to come back. With my history minor, I had some thoughts on this. And I was like, you know what? I could finally ask some hard-hitting history-related questions. Like, hey, Euclid, what helps shape your ideas of geometry? Yeah, see, it took a second. We got there. We got there. But jokes aside, I warned you. But jokes aside, it doesn't take an Einstein to see how brilliant this is. So thank you again, Dr. Alaniz, for everything you shared up here. That was awesome. Another round of applause, everybody.